Good morning. Well, good evening. Good evening. One thing about this whole era we live in, where Elon Musk is basically a co-president, how he basically bought out the White House, owns Trump. I thought about RoboCop. I think about the sci-fi of the 80s and 90s and how it kind of warned us this kind of runaway capitalism moment we live in. This guy was talking about why is RoboCop 3 bad. I don't think the third movie was bad. I think that America got dumber. I talk about it with the music of the 2000s, the trance music, how it's like society got dumber. This is how... So anyway, the first movie, RoboCop, was about a guy obviously got murdered in line of duty, and they put him in this robot to deal with crime. Now, one thing about the first movie is that even though he dealt with all kind of violence, he always tried to resolve it peacefully. One guy had a gun, robbing a convenience store, and RoboCop grabbed the barrel and bent it. And then another one dude was holding hostages in the Detroit City Hall, and RoboCop went through the wall and grabbed them. That to me was what it was about that. RoboCop to me is definitely, I would say it the right way. He became an antique. Because the first movie was about, he was going after the people that murdered him and crime and stuff like that. But then the other movies were a little bit different. And he basically was figuring it out. He had hidden objective, he had hidden protective public trust. He had other things he couldn't arrest OCP office. OCP owned the city, they owned the police department. And it's called Delta City. What they ended up doing, RoboCop and other things, they were implements of a corporation that ran the city, and it chose to deal with crime in that kind of way of over firepower. The second movie, the city went bankrupt, and OCP was kind of having trouble, and the drug dealers put their money together and tried to buy the city. And they had a second robot, OCP, second robot, and killed everybody. Tried to kill the mayor with the hit. That was there. So that it signified that it's a little bit different. That RoboCop was an antique of this era of the law, the way I was taught in college. No respect for men in judgment and stopping the poisoning, stopping certain things like that I was taught. And at the movies, the second and the third one, some people say the first one too, really went into that. We don't need this old antique robot interfering with our money, interfering with our drug dealers, interfering with, we got crooked police on the Detroit police. What about it? We don't need this thing getting in the way. Whereas for him, he's like, just doing my job. These are criminals. Like a blind man could see this. And so that's kind of, and then, RoboCop was like the Hunger Games of the 80s, of the 90s, early 90s. It was. You look at the poverty in those movies, extreme poverty. But then you go in the OCP CEO's office, his house, it's all beautiful and the walls and all that, and you go in the OCP office, how beautiful it was. I think to this day, that's a pretty modern office. I would think so. So it's like Hunger Games, people living out in poverty, but then in the city they're having parties and everybody's wearing makeup, they're riding around on rocket ships. That's to me what RoboCop was, that we're at the final stage of capitalism. And nobody really cares about this law and order bullshit no more. He does, because the law to him, he's a utilitarian tool. You see, the law, he was designed as like a multi-tool or something. He's a tool to furtherance of law enforcement purposes, like a police car, like whatever. Those are furtherance, and that in the future the rich didn't really care about that. It didn't matter, and it really, I feel about it that as the saga went on, it got smarter. I think like RoboCop, for the idea that was like just there's a creeping fascism of this man that's in a machine. He's dead. He's devoid of humanity, or he's designed to be, and he's gonna he's not afraid to die. He's not afraid of let me call back home. He's like, I'm gonna get it. I think people like that, but the movies weren't about that. RoboCop was an implement. He was a tool within a system. You understand? Don't forget that. And I think the second movie was about city going bankrupt, drugs, and all that kind of stuff. The third movie was about a trade war or something with Japan going on in the background, and the guy, what do you say? I'm trying to remember. They had these called the rehab teams. They were in the police department. They worked parallel, kind of like those. And what they would do is they would go to areas that were really poor, and people were being thrown out of their homes. They had military equipment. They were great, and it looked to me in something like they were raping people and committing crimes. RoboCop come across it with his partner. He witnessed it. He recorded it. He encountered evidence of crimes. RoboCop tried to stop it or something. His partner got murdered. Lois. Okay? So I think the third movie was if you think this is about fascism or whatever, he was with the people. He was with the people. He understood that there comes a line of you're standing with billionaires and mercenary forces, or you stand with people who are going out of their homes that have done no wrong, And that to me was what that was. That was kind of like rubber meeting the road of, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? And he's a good guy. It's not just like a sci-fi, this is a new way that we'll do. Because I remember, listen, even with the second movie, with the stuff in the second movie, you have to remember something. The second movie was about you have to realize that I think it was it was progressing. And I'll be honest, watching a lot of old sci-fi movies and TV shows, Incorporated, Total Recall TV show, I'm actually surprised that they got 3 movies and they got a TV show. I think it was 2 TV shows. And a TV show and an animated TV show. And I'm actually surprised because it was such a critique of capitalism or final stage capitalism, where you basically have billionaires buying out cities. And you'll say that would never happen. I think there was a moment where people put out of Congress or whatever. Congressman came back in there, and there was a police officer. He was a mercenary. He was a triple canopy. And Elon Musk had hired him. He put him in there. And it's just something about that to me that this is about. It's fascism. This is a merging of government and corporate powers. And that's what that is. To see that, it brings it home to me how forward-looking that show would be. I just think that the show just got smart, and that people just got stupid, and you don't like the show because you can't get it. You just want to see big bombs and explosions and some robot crippling people. You don't want to actually understand this is bad. And when you make your government and everything about efficiency, this is what happens. This is what happens. Is a lot of things that aren't efficient, but we shouldn't alter them. I just think it's like Starship Troopers. Same thing. On CBC, there was a guy I worked for. I guess he saw the movie and he took a screenshot of it and he put it in his email at the bottom. And Starship Troopers is not. That's not what that movie is. Same thing. Verhoeven came with that movie. It is a movie that's it's a warning of friendly fascism, which is, it's not racism, it's not homophobia. You had the bathing together, the men and the women and all that. It was a movie that's about fascism. Remember the guy who was in high school, wanted to date the girl, he had to ask permission to kiss her. That's fascism. That's what that is. That you have a system that Then they end up going to war and fighting and, you know, dying, losing a bunch of people. And then at the end, you got the guy look like he's an SS soldier. He got the outfit of an SS. And he had a little boy that was in the commercial, and it's like they're laughing about it. That tells me the war ain't going well. Because you have little kids. That's what the Nazis did at the end. You have little boys fighting. That's the war isn't going well. But for my former boss, he saw that as a positive. He saw it as like, yeah, veterans run things, and veterans have more. You got to be in the fleet. You got to be in the fleet in order to vote. You got to be a full citizen. You got to go to service to your citizen. And you didn't have to be that, but you didn't have full rights then. And for him, he looked at it as a positive. For me, that's fascism. It was. Because the whole society should not be driven off of the military. The whole society should not be driven off of war. The whole society should be, we shouldn't have to, you know what I mean? For me, I see that as society getting dumber and not being able to comprehend and break down what fascism is and things like that. The movie didn't get bad. I will say this, and I forgot about this, I ended with this, that I guess there was like a lot of kids' toys to RoboCop. I don't know how, a lot of people, I didn't know that a lot of kids liked it, a lot of people liked it and stuff. And that he was trying to make it like a softer version of that, the second and third movie. And to me, you can't do that because you're taking away the oomph. You know, Roosevelt talked about walk softly, carry a big stick. Refrain from hitting. Never hit soft. That's RoboCop. We're carrying this big stick. Remember the second movie, the guy, they're shooting RPGs at police cars. And that's a different level of violence. RoboCop is an implement to deal with that high level of violence. It isn't something to be celebrated. It's something to recognize we're in a different moment, right? It's a different moment than it was before. So to me, trying to soften it takes away from the impact, the impact of it. And I don't know. I think the story still came across. I'm a story guy. You know, the story came across as being about fantasy capitalism.